Hey guys, I'm Dr. Ben Spears, I'm trying to think of something. I haven't used this one in a while. I'm the supreme leader of
The
flow.
emperor of flow.
Yeah, and I am here with the big guy as usual, Matt Vi, and we've got our guest, here on the view as well. We're going to bring her on in just a second. Matt, tell me how you're doing.
I'm doing good. We can call me the interrupter instead of the big guy. We'll call me the interrupter today because I wouldn't let you get that out. So I watched some of the Mandalorian last night, right? You were talking so much about the Mandalorian. And I was like, okay, the emperor, we got to call him the grand poobah of flow or something like that. It's got to be something along that line. I'm doing fantastic. Other than this morning, you guys hear me talk about my Jeep all the time. The doors are off the Jeep, the top is off the Jeep and everything. And my wife, it's a little bit chilly here, right? So we're in the mid 60s, but my wife took the Jeep this morning. She's like, I'm going to take that. You can use the other. I was like, are you kidding me, man? I took all that stuff off and now she's,
She's
about
out
town.
there, reaping the benefits of all your hard work of taking the Jeep apart.
It seems like it's there, but I guess I'll have to get over it. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
Tammy gets what she wants. We all know that, Matt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's bring on our guest so that she can enjoy the conversation. Michelle Lee Myrter. She's a certified bank coach. We definitely want to dig in to see what's at it. But she helps businesses, optimize their business, maximize their results. And she believes a lot like we do, guys, from a relationship standpoint versus a numbers standpoint when it comes to kind of that sales and connecting. But let's bring on Michelle, talk to her and see how she's doing. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be here. And Matt, I have a Jeep too. And we got a bunch of snow last night and my son went out and said, Ma, your Jeep is sliding down the driveway. So
holy crap.
I was able to save it. No worries.
Holy crap.
Oh no. So was it just on ice or something like that?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Uh,
See, we just don't have to worry about that here in Clearwater.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Yeah. Where are you? Where did you get snow?
I'm near Pittsburgh. We got about a foot of snow on Saturday.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's way far away from where we are.
Yep.
Yeah, we're like it's the 60s, and we're like, let's bundle up. So,
well, hang on. Let's talk Jeep for just a second.
All right.
Isn't it fantastic having a Jeep? I mean, just seriously. I mean,
it's the best. And so here's a little fun fact for you. So Jeep was actually made here in a little town called Butler. So every year we have Jeep Fest where tens of thousands of Jeeps come to a little town just north of here and go mudding. We have this whole track set up and it's just a Jeep Fest.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Down here, they only use them down here. They keep them super clean. They keep them super clean, and they ride up and down the beach, showing off their guns and stuff. Matt doesn't.
Yeah, no, we got mud head to toe covered.
Yeah, Matt uses his Jeep the right way, but down here, not so much. LEDs all over it and all that kind of stuff.
That's right. Yeah,
but
all pimped out for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. We got so much to talk about. I did not mean to sidetrack that, but a fellow Jeep person, I had to throw that out there.
Yeah.
So Michelle, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I come from 28 plus years in sales and marketing. I was in purchasing. I lost my job in 2015 and literally had to sell everything I owned. And I had to restart. Well, at 40 some years old, restarting, you need to do it as quick as possible. And I would not have chosen to do that if it weren't for the people that lost their jobs with me. So it was more for them than me. I would have chosen any other industry. But regardless, I ended up getting involved in starting this company. And I was struggling. I was struggling for sales. I was struggling hiring people. All around. I was fighting for my life, trying to be able to get a paycheck because all of my money was going into trying to build this company and money I didn't have. So it was a struggle. And on my journey, I ended up hearing the woman who created a system that literally changed everything for me and my family, all of my relationships. And when I was introduced to it, that was when I found my purpose and my mission and said, you know what, people, it doesn't have to be this hard and I want to help them. And it's something that actually takes people to the next level, even understanding their family, because it saved my relationship with one of my kids.
Oh,
Awesome.
nice. And I'm assuming that's bank.
It is.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what it is and what's so special about it.
So B.A.N.K is actually an acronym for the 4 personality types. We've all taken personality tests, right? And they tell us a great deal about ourselves. And we're like, ooh, how could that test tell us so much about ourselves?
Mhm.
But it's not focused on the other person. So you're guessing who that other person is. So when you look at B.A.N.K, the B is for blueprint. They're the person who's inside the box. They need things like structure, stability, systems, planning. They are all about processes. They hate risk. When you look at the action person, they blew up the box. It's like rocket ships flying out of it. They're your movers, your shakers, your millionaire makers, right? They're going to come at you with a high five. They want action, fun, opportunity, excitement. They're all about the image, the money, they're the hustlers, right? They're out there hustling, doing all the things. Then you have your nurturing. They recycled the box.
Right.
They put a gift inside, wrapped it up, put a bow on top, gave it away. They're the ones who are all about teamwork, harmony, family, community, ethics. They want to make this world a better place. And then you have your knowledge, who's like, listen, without me, you don't even have a box. I engineered it. They need the data, the science, the research, logic. It's got to make sense. Well, the problem is people go into that sales as a numbers game because they're saying the same thing over and over and they're missing it. So B.A.N.K takes it to that next level, puts it on steroids and says, here, in 90 seconds or less, you can know exactly who you're talking to, because what you say to one person is going to turn them on, but you can say that same thing to another person and turn them off. And the key is there's 24 different ways that someone can show up. So your chances are 4% every time you go out there.
Gotcha. So, everyone, who listens to this podcast, which, our audience is, predominantly brokers, recruiting managers looking to hire agents and recruit agents into their brokerage. They all know Matt loves personalities, right? And we talk all the time about how personalities, get broken into 4s, right? And so we see that with B.A.N.K. What I'm going to ask you as a B.A.N.K expert is, if I'm a broker and I'm sitting there and I have an agent on the other side of my desk and we're talking about the brokerage and here are all the things that I have to offer. What as the broker do I need to be listening for, looking for? How do I adjust my conversation to make sure that I'm actually hitting the points of the agent on the other side of the desk, things that they want to hear. What's important to them?
Well, and it depends on the person. So when we focus on as B.A.N.K is actually having that person crack their code. So say I was in person with you, I would actually give you 4 cards.
Okay.
I would have you sort them, and then I would know exactly how to talk to you, what was going to push you, because there's even a stress code. If I didn't have the cards and I wanted to speed code that person, you got to be a really good listener, but you got to look at what are they wearing? What is their tone? The thing is, people have all 4 of those different personalities in them, and they can actually flow between them depending on the situation. So they may be an ANKB, action, nurturing, knowledge, blueprint. And when they're in the interview or in that conversation, they're now under stress and they're showing up completely different. So you need to be able to meet them where they are. Now, if you're looking at someone who's a blueprint, right, they're going to be professionally dressed, very organized. They're going to be very traditional. They're going to be traditional handshake. They're going to be colder to approach. Those types of people are going to need all of the details. They want to minimize their risk. So they need to know, what is your process? What is your system? What are your credentials? They're very, credentials are everything, because again, they want to minimize that risk. If you're looking at that action person, they're going to be that more charismatic person, right?
Right.
Designer label, designer what, they want that opportunity. So if it's a groundbreaking opportunity, they're going to be in, where your blueprint is not.
Gotcha.
So all of those things are going to matter. Say a nurturing person, maybe they don't join your team, maybe they join somebody else's. Well, you need to keep communicating with that person so they know it's more about them than the money, that you truly made a connection with them and you really care about them. Where your knowledge person wants that, they want to analyze everything. They're going to have a ton of questions. So you need to give them more time in that interview process because they're going to have questions. And you can't close a K. They have to close themselves because they don't want to be wrong.
Gotcha. Yeah, Matt, I'm gonna turn this to you just a little bit, right? Because I love facilitating these conversations, right? That's that's like, my purpose in life almost. Matt, hearing that, and I see you shaking your head up and down the whole time she's talking,
Right.
which we love to see. Let's bring that, right. Let's use some real life examples, right, from a recruiting standpoint, and just bring that into real estate even more, right, because it's that's your last 30 years of your life.
Yeah. So she knows she's spot on, right? I
Yeah.
love it. I love hearing people talk about, personalities, especially whenever they have a really good grip on it. Whenever it comes to recruiting, what we talked about for a minute before the podcast started, sales is not a numbers game. I don't believe that sales is a numbers game. I believe that sales is a relationship game. Now, the number one rule is numbers, right? And so you have to understand your numbers. You have to understand a lot of other things that kind of add up to give you a full picture. And that's exactly what Michelle is talking about. Don't sit there and use the same exact script on everybody and then think that you're just going to have some incredible results. And if I just contact enough people that I can use the same exact script and not put any real effort into it, and I'm gonna hire a bunch of people. That's just not the way it works. As a matter of fact, what you're doing is you're fracturing your culture in the marketplace that you're in, because whenever you're sitting there, you're giving the wrong impression of what it is that you're really trying to accomplish in your business. So being able to take a close look at who's in front of you, and we've talked to several people about Michelle, several people about personality before, and you're the first one that's brought up clothes. And that is such an integral part of all of it. What jewelry are they wearing, right? How do they greet you whenever they come in the front door, right? If you've got somebody taking them on a tour of the office, do they want to hug that person? Are they shaking hands with that person? Are they standing back, staying away from that person? Did they show up with books in their hand, or did they show up with their phone in their hand? All of these things are going to tell you so much about the personality of the person. And Michelle, I love it that you're bringing all of that up, because it's absolutely a complete picture whenever it comes to making sure that you're connecting with them. And I know that you were going to get to this because we talked about it. This is all about being connected with them on a sincere level. This is about being connected where they're at, which you mentioned already. You want to meet them where they're at, and you want to make them feel comfortable enough to open up to who they truly are. And if you can meet them where they're at, because sometimes they come in and they've got their guard up, right? Because they think they should behave a certain way, or they've learned, or they even if they don't know it directly, indirectly, they know your personality, and they start talking to you, or they know other people in their office and they've heard something about you, and then they walk in the front door and they think they should behave a certain way. You have to meet them where you're at and then help them feel comfortable being who they are. So that way you can really apply your solutions to what it is that's going on with the problems, because that's when the real listening comes in, and you can actually help them where they are. And that's whenever you're going to build that rapport, and that's whenever you're going to get those people that you want. And the people that you don't want, you can just tell them, no, haul ass. You don't need them in the office anyway if they're not going to fit, right? So Michelle, I don't want to talk any more about this. I was actually shaking my head. Ben mentioned this. If you guys aren't watching this on YouTube, Ben mentioned this. I was over here like a bobblehead, shaking my head the entire time. I was just enjoying the hell out of it. So I'm going to stop talking at this point. And Michelle, do us a favor, okay? Talk to us a little bit about building that rapport. So let's say you've identified who they are, personality-wise, because you've learned how to navigate this, and understand who it is that's sitting in front of you. And okay, one last thing, I do have to say this. I'm so sorry. So you talked about the importance. I know, right? He's gonna mute me. So you talked about the importance of knowing who you are but also about quickly being able to and accurately being able to identify who they're presenting at that point, right? So let's say that we get past that part. Talk to us a little bit about building rapport with that. Okay, can you do that for us, Michelle?
Absolutely. So each different code is going to connect with you differently. So I like to explain it like if you went to a different country, would you learn the language of the people or will you expect people to adapt to you?
Hey guys, this podcast is powered by Prospect Boomerang.
We all know broker owners struggle with profitability. Prospect Boomerang compounds your profits by recruiting the best agents to your brokerage.
For consistent growth, visit prospectboomerang.com.
And that's exactly what it is. You are staying your authentic self. You have enough respect for the person in front of you to speak their language and speak to them the way they were meant to be spoken to. So when you're looking at that, that full bank code is important. The first position is who is that dominant code. The second position plays a huge role. So they're a blend of that first and second. That third code is their stress code. And the last code is what they stay away from. So when you're looking at that person, you have to look at them as that whole picture. Okay, how is this person showing up? What am I listening for? How can I help them best? And how am I going to connect with them? And what do I need to stay away from?
Mm-hmm.
If they are not into the knowledge end of anything, then you're not going to want to flood them with a bunch of details and research and science and data because they don't want that. Your action person wants you to get to the bottom line as quickly as possible. What is this going to do for me?
Yeah, no,
Right?
absolutely. And I love that. I love that. Sorry, my Zoom just kicked me off of everything, but I was still here. I heard you all. I heard you all the time. I absolutely. And if I interrupted that point there, I do have a follow-up question, but go ahead. I'm not
No,
sure
go
if I
ahead.
interrupted or not.
No, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, so we've talked about because we talk about retention just as much, and I see it's the green box right there beside your head. We talk about retention lines. It's just as important as recruiting. It's one thing to say, okay, like Michelle, I know what you are, right? You're a mover and a shaker, or you're you're a blueprint or nurturing or you're a knowledge person, right? Let's say I've got a group of agents in front of me, and I've done some kind of like event, and I said, hey, come on, we're going to be teaching about something. And all of a sudden, I have 15 different agents in my office, listening to me talk. And most of us, I'm the least of the three of us, we'll say, are experts of, gosh, we can really kind of pinpoint these people. And of course it takes practice, and we pinpoint these people from a mile away. Even if you can, when you're in front of a group, are you kind of thinking to yourself, okay, as I talk, I want to make sure that my presentation or whatever I'm teaching meets something that each one of these four needs? Or are you saying, okay, most of these people, 80-20 rule, 80% of them have designer clothes on. I'm going to just straight up talk action the whole night and like, screw you guys over there for not wearing good clothes.
That is a great question. So here's what's key. If you're speaking to a group of people, you want to hit all four codes. Your action blueprint is going to be a completely different person than your action nurturing or your action knowledge. Okay, so you need to hit all four of those codes, which is why we have the artificial intelligence, where literally your marketing, your presentations, all of those things you want balanced. Mm-hmm. So that you're able to actually reach each one of them. If you look at MLS listings, it's hysterical because you can literally see them just leaving 75% of the sales on the table. So many of them speak really high nurturing and don't touch anybody else. They're missing it. So in all of those, in any situation where you're talking to a large group of people or different groups of people, if you have a husband and a wife in front of you, if you're selling a home to them, your opposites attract. So odds are they're two completely different personality types. So you could do really great with one. They could get in the car and go home and talk their spouse out of it and say, I don't want to work with that person. They were not speaking my language, and you lose the deal. So that's how important it is to actually just truly know who's in front of you and then tailor that presentation to them.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And Matt, you've kind of spoken and touched on this every now and then. And I don't, everybody knows I can't stand the sound of Matt's voice. I'm joking.
That's why he edits the podcast. That's why he does the
Yeah, I just
podcast.
take,
But
anytime Matt talks,
sticks
I
in
just
the
cut it. I cut it out. Yeah. But so Matt, I want you to kind of touch on that too. Because it's just like, I love having these, it's like, I've got these two personality, experts, in front of me, and selfishly, I just want to hear all the different perspectives. But I know for a fact that you have talked to me before about, like, if there's a group of people out there, and I know that, some of the marketing things that we do for Brokerage Podcast, along with Prospect Boomerang, you're constantly saying, like, okay, before we even get started, let's make sure that, we're touching on something for each of these personalities. You use colors and that kind of thing. But talk a little bit about that, from a recruiting standpoint. And then, we'll bring it back to Michelle, and, I definitely want to figure out, not figure out, but let people know how to get in touch with you and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Again, I'm just loving this. There's so much great information, right? So you mentioned that, their primary color, let's call it, or the primary relationship or personality accelerator, right? The thing that they like to talk about, who they are. So some people try to hide it at work, right? We don't need to get into all of that, right? And compared to who they really are Saturday afternoon when they're sitting on the couch by themselves, right? That's two completely different things sometimes. But you mentioned how polarizing the opposite was, which is so important for people to understand. And polarizing is the right word, right? So and the way that it really drove this home with me, the way that I really learned this is, you can talk to people about, they take a test, and then you start talking about the results and everything, and they're like, oh, I can see this, and I thought I'd be more of that, and all that kind of stuff. And then they get down to that last one. And when they get down to that last one, they're almost never surprised that it's the last one, because they know that that's the one that they connect with the least, first of all. And second of all, that's also the one they have the least appreciation for. So they don't just look at those people, like if it's blueprint or if it's knowledge or whatever, and there's some opposites there. They don't look at it like there's a tremendous amount of value with that. It's almost like it's dismissed sometimes. So you have to be really careful when you're in those recruiting appointments, or you are going to turn people off. But that means you have to know this well enough so that you don't do it by accident, which is a key thing. You've got to really dig into this. You have to really learn. You got to look to all the indicators. You have to body language and everything else. You really have to dig into every bit of that in order to make sure that you're looking at this the right way. As far as a group goes, absolutely, our message has to be a super clear message to everyone that's in there. And there's content that you just have to make sure that appeals to everyone whenever you're talking to a large group. Sales meetings are a perfect example of this. I wanted to touch on this really, really quickly. Okay. And so a lot of times when people do their sales meetings, the manager's personality comes through so much in their sales meetings, and they wonder why people don't show up to their sales meetings. And the reason why is because they're standing up there and they're talking and they're explaining and they're focusing on the things that they think they would want if they were sitting in the audience. You can't freaking do that. It has to be information that is helpful to everyone and every mix of personalities that's out there, because sometimes your primary personality is this huge percentage compared to the next one, right? There's a big difference between the two. And then other times there's not. Other times, they might be two or three, colors or personalities that are close together. And so you think you have everybody all figured out, and you're standing up there talking about things the way that you want to hear them, and you're turning off your audience. You're turning off the people that you're speaking to, right? And so, Michelle, if I'm off base on that, and some insight, I mean,
You're
talk to me.
absolutely spot on. So what happens is, by default, we show up assuming everybody's just like us. and that they interpret things the same way. But based on our different personalities, which ours is based on core values, right? So core values drive everything, your human behavior, your buying behavior. But based on that, we have a filter. So how many times have you been in front of somebody or in a conference or in an environment and you zone out and everything starts to sound like dolphin squeaks? And you're like, their lips are moving, but I have no idea what they're saying. I'm just going to nod.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's because they aren't speaking your language. It's like they're speaking a foreign language. And that's exactly what happens. And then they don't want to come back. They're like, why should I go there? And the Challey group did a really interesting survey. And they said 66% of people were turned off by their presentation. 66%. Wow. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I can't even imagine that. I think most of us finished the presentation. We're like, man, that went really well. Right? And
even how you put it together, what you put in the presentation, that absolutely matters. You said dolphin squeaks. I say Charlie Brown's teacher when I'm talking to people.
Oh my God. I've
wah,
done,
wah, wah.
I do when I do my pitch on networking calls, sometimes I use that, the Charlie Brown teacher. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah. I always just use Matt.
People know immediately what he means.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Matt. So this is going to be my last question, and then we'll go into kind of how people connect. But I want to keep kind of stealing that information from you. If let's say I have a brokerage, right, and there's 50 agents in it, and I hired them. Maybe I hired everyone who's just like me. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I didn't hire any of them. They just signed up with whoever's in charge of my recruiting, and I don't even know who they are. Right? Like, I don't know. Everybody has different brokerage models. How important would you say that it is that you kind of either go back or start from scratch? What would be the best process to say, I would really like to know where everyone in my office stands from a personality standpoint, right? Would it be beneficial to say, like, man, I have a whole lot of these and like none of those, and then how would you use that information to know who to go after, or do you fill a space, or do you just find more of these people? Like, what does that look like?
So first I will crack everybody's code. So once you have their information, now you can leverage, where do I want to place people? Every single code is important and everyone has a superpower. So if you know what that superpower is, all of a sudden they're going to be happy, you're going to be happy, and you're going to have a really successful team because now you're all working together, right? If you have somebody who's super high blueprint, but their nurturing is really low, they may not be the greatest person to welcome people into your office because their people skills aren't there and they're going to come across as cold and rude, right? But for example, I had to hire someone in quality control. They had to have a very specific code.
Right.
They had to be a knowledge, blueprint, action, nurturing. Why? Because they weren't going to be around a lot of people. They had to be into data and research. They had to build a program. They had to be very organized. They had to, if they got into stress, jump into action. And so they had to have a very specific code. There were a lot of applicants, but for this specific task, I needed this person, and she's a rock star.
I bet. Perfect.
So, right. But if I would have put an action nurturing in there, oh my God, nothing would have gotten done. Nothing would have gotten done. They would have been out there talking to everybody, trying to get out of the office because they didn't want to be in a box.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And that's what you are, right?
Action, nurturing, knowledge, blueprint.
Yeah, I see your acronym down there on your.
Yeah, my B.A.N.K swap places. So.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I was looking at that and I kept thinking, I'm like, man, does she just not know how to spell bank? Or no, there. That's now I get it. Now it's just the correct order. So, Matt, anything there that you want to add to that before I kind of let people know how to get in touch with Michelle?
We could talk about this all day. I absolutely love this. I think probably from a broker standpoint, looking at recruits, because Ben, you kind of touched on this, and Michelle, you just kind of talked about this, but if there is a gap, you have to understand why there's a gap. Is that not something service-wise that you offer on your brokerage? Okay, so an example would be, there's certain personalities that are going to do better on the listing side of things. So, and I'm not going to go too deep into this. I'll keep this very cursory. Okay. But, prospecting, pre-qualifying, and presenting, that's the bulk of an agent's day, right? That's 80% of their day. So, depending on how you want to label that, what you want to talk about, all that kind of stuff, right? Let's say that's 80% of their day. Some personalities are going to do better at prospecting. Some are going to do better at pre-qualifying. Some are going to do better at presenting. And then some are going to do better at the administrative side of what they do, which is that other key component to what needs to happen with their business. Look around your office and see where people are excelling in those different gaps, and ask yourself, is it because I hired those people because they're like me and that's what I'm looking for, or that's what is attracted to my environment? Or is it because I don't offer the tools and systems to support those other personalities in that specific type of growth and what they're doing in their business? Or do I have those tools, but I just didn't talk about them in my interview? I don't talk about them in my appointment setting process. I don't talk about them in my follow-up. So literally you're turning people off that could have been a good fit, either because you're skipping the conversation with them because you don't know how to explain it, or you don't believe in it the same way, or you don't think it's important. And the next thing you know, your office has a certain personality to it. Nothing wrong with that, but it has a certain personality to it. And you're missing, or you have gaps in big picture, pieces of business that you could actually do. And I'm just going to use commercial real estate let me use property management. It's a little bit closer to residential. So a property manager is going to be completely different than a buyer's agent, personality wise. It's just they both can excel at it. They both can do really well at it, but it takes a different skill set because of what they need to do every day and how they need to interact with people. Well, if you're trying to grow the property management side of your business and you've got a ton of buyer's agents and a ton of listing agents, and that's the tools you talk about in your sales meeting all the time, and all of those things are attractive to those specific personalities, you're going to have a gap in trying to hire that person that is the property manager. You need to make sure that you're understanding what it is that you offer and making sure that you understand how to explain that to them in a way that helps them feel comfortable that you can actually utilize them the way that you need to in that business. And I'm going to stop talking at this point, because this, again, I want to hear Michelle's take on this, right? Michelle, so tell me about that. Is that on track? How do you look at all that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you're trying to explain to someone else, again, if you're not explaining it in their language, they're missing it.
Mhm.
And that's when you come back and you're like, I told you 10 times how to do this. What aren't you getting? And you're like, they're like, I don't know. I didn't understand you. But that's
Right.
what it is. So
Yeah.
you really have to understand how to speak their language, how to know what language they're in. What if they get stressed out? Where are they showing up when they get stressed out? Are they starting to overanalyze everything? Are they getting stuck in analysis paralysis where they can't move forward? Are they totally emotional and they're breaking down into tears? Like, oh my God, you just offended me. All you said was like, where's the coffee? And they're like crying in the corner. Like, all of these things matter. Maybe they get stressed out and all of a sudden they're like OCD and they're cleaning all over the place and organizing things. And you're like, I just told you to get this chart to me. And so all of those things matter. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
Such great examples.
No, absolutely. I love it. Well, we could have this, just like Matt said, we could have this conversation all day long. If I let Matt, he probably would, right? But that's where I am the supreme leader, the leader of flow. We want to make sure that we respect your time as well as the time of all of our listeners. Before I ask you, how does everyone get in touch with you and that kind of thing, knowing listeners that as always, all this information is going to go in the description below. I know that you're involved with AM Spirit, which is owned by our friend Frank Agan, and Frank got us connected for this podcast. I just want to make sure that, we give a shout out to Frank and thank him for getting us connected with, another amazing guest. He only connects us with just like the most amazing people. And we're super grateful for Frank.
Frank is amazing. I've been with Amspirit for a couple of years, and it is such a fantastic group of community, people who support one another. It's been amazing for my business, and I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah. Amen.
The dude just lives what he preaches. You can't help but just love that. He's just
Oh,
such a guy. Yeah.
he is. I mean, just the biggest heart in the world.
Yep.
No, absolutely. So thank you, Frank, just for being a human being and being on this planet with us. So Michelle, let us know if I'm a broker, if I'm an agent, or someone in we have listeners in insurance and mortgage and all that kind of stuff. If I want to get in touch with you and I say, well, like I'm really like digging what she's putting down, how do they get in touch with you?
They can send me an email. It's mmyrter@gmail.com. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, or I actually gave you a link for them to take a free value assessment test. They'll get a free report all about them, and they can crack their family's codes. I highly recommend it.
Oh yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, guys, I will put that in the description below, and make sure you go and take that. I know I'm going to, because I just, I love learning about myself. So,
I just want to thank you guys both for having me. And is there anything that I can help support you with?
I love that you're offering the personality test. I think that everyone that's listening should go to that link. They should click on it and they should take it. Every person listening is doing themselves a disservice and the people in their office a disservice if they don't go click on that link and take this and get the insight and the feedback that you're putting out there, because it's going to make all the difference in the world in what they're doing with their business. So they need to, get going. They need to go do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So, guys, wherever you're listening to this, whether it be iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hey, how's it going? Make sure you hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside of it. You get notified every time we drop a new episode. There's no better time than the present than to go to prospectboomerang.com. Check out all the cool things that Matt and I have to help you grow your brokerage, no matter what stage or phase of the business that you're in. Michelle, I want to thank you one last time for coming on and sharing your information with us and our listeners. Matt, we bring on these amazing guests and bring that information to all of our listeners for one reason and one reason alone. Tell them why that is.
Because we want to be part of their win.